Good morning. Here is today's word of blessings for you. Numbers 14:1-9. That night all the members of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, "If only we had died in Egypt, or in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt?" And they said to each other, "We should choose a leader and go back to Egypt." Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole Israelite assembly gathered there. Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes, and said to the entire Israelite assembly, "The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, He will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord. And do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them." Today's title is When Most People Go Wrong. The majority rules. That's the basic principle of democracy. We know that there are many benefits to the rule of the majority. But we also know that not a few ill-willed politicians utilized the system to promote and protect their own selfish ambitions. Our assumption that the majority is better failed us big time on many occasions. We should not take light of the opinion of the majority. But at the same time, we should have the courage to confront the majority when they go wrong. How do you know when the majority go wrong? What can be the basis of your judgment? We learn it from Joshua and Caleb, who confronted the majority in today's passage. We all know this story very well. Moses sent out 12 men to scout the land that God has promised before they enter it. The 12 scouts came back. 10 of the scouts presented a bad report about the promised land. At the majority report, people felt totally dismayed to the point of rebellion against their own leaders. They grumbled, criticized and started revolting. Moses and Aaron became speechless and fell face down. This is what we often see when the major goes awry. The majority becomes a lot more irrational than any individual or minority. It takes great courage to stand against them. We see that the whole assembly was to stone Joshua and Caleb. But Joshua and Caleb had the courage to face the risk. They stood up and presented a good report about the promised land. Unlike the majority report, the report of Joshua and Caleb was not just about the land, it was more about God. The heart of their report was God's promise, God's will and God's power. While the majority's eyes were solely on land, eyes of Joshua and Caleb were more on God. This made the difference. If we really want to be on the side of the truth, it doesn't really matter whether we are on the majority side of the minority side. What really matters is whether we are on God's side or not. I believe this is what Abraham Lincoln had in mind. In a critical time of the American Revolution, one of Lincoln's cabinet members said that "I want God is on our side at this fight." Lincoln answered, "Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side, my greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right." How true! If our eyes are firmly on God, we will not be afraid of the big or the many or the strong. How are you behaving when most people go wrong and against God? Do you have the courage to stand alone with God? Be strong and courageous. That is the very attitude that will make us enter the promised land. Amen.